Emily Dawson came to Maui, seeking escape and sunshine. But after a single drink at a bustling beach bar, she vanished without a trace. Jason Kanoa, the bartender's son, with a shadowy past, was the last person seen with her. 9 days later, a shallow grave would expose a truth darker and more twisted than anyone could have imagined. Emily Dawson stepped off the plane into the warm, fragrant air of Maui, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. The island's vibrant colors, the deep blues of the ocean, the lush greens of the palm trees, and the fiery oranges of the setting sun were a stark contrast to the gray, crowded streets she had left behind in Seattle. She had come to Maui for a break, a chance to escape the stress of her demanding job in marketing, and to find a little peace she hadn't felt in months. The idea of sand between her toes and endless horizons promised freedom she desperately needed. Her accommodation was a small beachfront hotel, modest but charming, nestled close enough to hear the ocean's steady rhythm. Emily had chosen this spot because it was away from the crowded tourist hubs, somewhere she could feel like a part of the island rather than just another visitor. She spent the first day exploring the nearby trails, breathing in the salty air, and letting her worries melt away. At night, the sound of waves crashing against the shore created a soothing soundtrack, lulling her into a calm she hadn't known in a long time. On the evening of her first night, Emily decided to visit a beach bar that locals and tourists alike recommended. It was a lively place, perched right on the sand with open walls to let the ocean breeze sweep through. Strings of colorful lights flickered above the tables, and the air was thick with the scent of grilled seafood and tropical cocktails. Music played softly, a blend of island rhythms and modern beats, inviting people to relax and unwind. Emily ordered a single drink, a cocktail made with fresh pineapple juice and a splash of rum. She found a spot near the edge of the bar where she could watch the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold. For a while she simply sat there, taking it all in. The warm glow of the setting sun, the laughter of strangers, the gentle clinking of glasses. It felt like a perfect moment, a snapshot of happiness she wanted to hold on to. But as the evening grew darker, something shifted. Emily caught the eye of a man sitting alone nearby, someone she hadn't noticed when she first arrived. He was in his early 30s, dressed casually but with an air of confidence that made him stand out. Without speaking, he moved closer, settling into a seat beside her. Emily felt a flicker of unease, but also curiosity. They didn't exchange words, but his presence was enough to change the mood of the night. When Emily finally left the bar, the man followed quietly behind. They walked together along the beach for a short while before disappearing into the shadows of the palm trees. No one at the bar noticed exactly when she left, and no one saw where she went afterward. The only thing left behind was her half-empty drink on the bar counter. The next morning, Emily's hotel room remained exactly as she had left it. Her suitcase was neatly packed. Her wallet and phone lay untouched on the bedside table. There were no signs of a struggle, no notes or messages explaining her sudden disappearance. It was as if she had vanished into thin air, leaving only the echoes of that one quiet evening by the sea. What had started as a hopeful escape to paradise had turned into a chilling mystery, one that would soon grip the island and those who knew her with fear and confusion. Morning arrived slowly over Maui, with soft sunlight spilling through the palm fronds outside Emily Dawson's hotel window. But unlike most mornings, this one was heavy with unease. Emily had not returned from the night before. Staff at the hotel began to notice the absence of the cheerful guest, who had checked in just days earlier. Her belongings were still neatly arranged in her room, her suitcase zipped and untouched. Her wallet, phone and passport were all there, nothing missing, nothing out of place. It was as if she had simply vanished. At first the hotel staff assumed she had gone out for an early morning walk, or perhaps decided to extend her vacation elsewhere on the island. But when she didn't check out or answer any calls or messages, concern grew. The hotel manager reached out to local authorities to report Emily missing, sparking the beginning of an urgent and wide-reaching search. The police arrived quickly and began questioning the bar staff where Emily had been seen the night before. Witnesses described her as friendly and relaxed, enjoying a single drink in the company of strangers and locals alike. People remembered her laughter, the way she leaned back in her chair watching the sunset, seemingly at ease in this tropical haven. However, no one could say where she had gone after she left the bar. Surveillance cameras showed Emily leaving with an unidentified man, but footage abruptly stopped soon after, providing no clues about her destination or what happened next. As the hours passed without a sign of Emily, the worry intensified. Her family back home in Seattle, alerted by a friend who hadn't heard from her, frantically tried to reach her through every possible channel. Phone calls went unanswered, messages unread. Social media, usually a reliable window into someone's life, remained eerily silent. No posts, no stories, no signs of activity. It was as if she had disappeared not just from the island but from the digital world entirely. The local community, initially unaware of the missing tourist, soon became involved. Volunteers formed search parties, combing beaches, nearby forests, and hiking trails. Police deployed K9 units trained to track human scents and called in divers to search the ocean near the beach bar. The island, usually bustling with relaxed tourists and islanders, enjoying the warm weather, became a place of tension and uncertainty. Every rock, every palm tree, every path was examined in hopes of finding some trace of Emily. News of her disappearance spread beyond Maui. Media outlets in Hawaii and back in Seattle began covering the story, painting a picture of a young woman's mysterious vanishing in paradise. Questions were raised. Had she been the victim of foul play, or was there another explanation? Was she lost, hurt, or hiding? Theories circulated wildly. Some believed she might have gotten lost in the jungle. Others feared she had fallen victim to the island's darker elements. With each passing day, hope began to wane. The police continued their investigation, but no leads emerged, no clues, no sightings, no messages from Emily herself. The growing silence was deafening. Friends and family held on desperately, refusing to believe the worst, but the uncertainty gnawed at them all. 9 days after she was last seen, the search for Emily had become one of the island's most urgent and heartbreaking mysteries. What had started as a peaceful vacation was now a desperate quest for answers, and with every moment that passed, the truth seemed more elusive, buried deep beneath the surface of the beautiful island she had come to escape to. As Emily Dawson's disappearance stretched into its 3rd day, the urgency of the search escalated dramatically. Local authorities mobilized resources quickly, enlisting help from every corner of the island. Police officers, park rangers and volunteer groups formed coordinated teams to comb the beaches, forests and trails near the area where Emily was last seen. Every inch of the coastline was inspected, every narrow path through the jungle scoured for signs of the missing woman. The ocean itself became a focus of the search as divers explored the waters close to the beach bar, hoping to find any evidence that might explain her sudden vanishing. Search dogs, trained to track human scent, were brought in from neighboring islands. These dogs sniffed tirelessly through dense undergrowth and sandy shores, attempting to pick up Emily's trail, but despite their efforts, the scent often faded mysteriously, as though she had vanished into thin air. Each dead end weighed heavily on the teams, but they refused to give up, driven by the hope of finding her alive. The hotel where Emily stayed became an unofficial command center. Friends and family gathered there, clinging to hope while grappling with fear. They shared stories and photos, trying to keep her memory alive even as uncertainty loomed large. Volunteers handed out flyers across the island, urging locals and tourists to keep an eye out for any signs or clues. The community, usually laid back and welcoming, was now wrapped in a cloud of anxiety. The search was also complicated by the island's geography. Maui's terrain was a mix of beautiful but challenging landscapes, rugged cliffs, thick forests, and remote beaches accessible only by difficult trails. Authorities faced the daunting task of searching these areas while dealing with the heat, humidity and the dangers of wildlife. Every day the sun rose over Maui, teams set out with renewed determination, combing through the terrain where a single missed clue could mean the difference between life and death. Meanwhile, local media began covering the case extensively. News reports shared Emily's story, describing her as a young woman seeking peace and adventure in paradise. They highlighted the mysterious circumstances of her disappearance after just one night at a beach bar. The coverage brought more attention to the case, prompting some tourists and residents to come forward with tips and sightings, though most proved unhelpful or inconclusive. Despite these efforts, the days passed without any solid leads. The silence from Emily herself was deafening. No messages, no calls, no social media posts. The absence of any communication deepened the sense of dread. It was as if she had simply been erased from the island's vibrant life. Authorities started to question whether foul play was involved. The abrupt ending of surveillance footage from the beach bar, the unknown man seen leaving with Emily, and the lack of any accidental explanations raised troubling possibilities. But with no concrete evidence, the case remained frustratingly vague, a puzzle with too many missing pieces. By the end of the week, the search had become one of the largest on the island in recent memory. Volunteers and professionals alike refused to give up, each day filled with cautious hope. Emily's disappearance had not only shaken her family and friends, but had begun to haunt the island itself, a beautiful paradise now shadowed by a dark, growing mystery. What had happened to the young woman who came to Maui for a break and disappeared without a trace? The answer remained just out of reach, buried somewhere in the island's sun-drenched sands and dense forests. The focus of the investigation soon shifted to the beach bar, where Emily Dawson was last seen. Known as a popular gathering spot for both locals and tourists, the bar had a relaxed, open-air vibe, offering stunning views of the ocean and a welcoming atmosphere. For many, it was a place to unwind after a day in the sun, but now it became a crucial piece of a much darker puzzle. Authorities began interviewing staff and patrons who had been there the night Emily vanished, hoping to uncover details that might explain what happened. The bartender recalled Emily ordering a single cocktail, a pineapple rum mix she seemed to enjoy as she watched the sunset. She appeared friendly and calm, mingling with other patrons and soaking in the island's relaxed energy. But what stood out most was the presence of a man who had approached her during the evening. He was described as quiet but confident, someone who didn't seem to belong to the usual crowd. People remembered noticing him sitting alone at first, then moving to sit beside Emily without much conversation. Surveillance footage from the bar was obtained, revealing Emily's last known movement. The video showed her leaving the bar with the man, walking away from the lively scene and toward a less crowded area near the beach. However, the footage suddenly stopped shortly after, cutting off just as they disappeared into the shadows. This abrupt end raised red flags. Had the camera malfunctioned, or had someone deliberately tampered with the recordings? Despite repeated requests, the bar's owners were hesitant to share all their footage, and some staff members seemed uneasy. A few visitors claimed they had overheard hushed conversation. The carefree image suddenly felt fragile, its bright exterior matching a darker undercurrent. As police dug deeper, they learned that the mysterious man was connected to the bar's inner circle, a fact that complicated the investigation. His identity was not immediately clear, but there were whispers among locals that he had ties to illegal activities on the island. Some believed he was involved in drug dealing or other criminal enterprises, though these rumors had never been officially confirmed. Witnesses gave conflicting accounts about what happened after Emily left with the man. Some claimed they heard raised voices near the edge of the beach. Others insisted it was quiet and uneventful. Without solid evidence or reliable eyewitnesses, investigators struggled to piece together a clear timeline. The silence from the man himself only deepened the mystery. The beach bar became a focal point not only for the police, but also for the media and the community. Patrons who had once enjoyed the bar's casual atmosphere now viewed it with suspicion and fear. The possibility that Emily's disappearance was linked to the bar's shadowy connections shook the island's sense of safety. As the days passed, the investigation around the bar exposed a tangled web of secrets and lies. What had seemed like a simple night out on the beach had become the starting point of a chilling and complex case. Emily's disappearance was no longer just a tragedy. It was a puzzle wrapped in silence, with the beach bar at its center. The question remained, what had really happened to her after that last drink? As investigators delved deeper into the case, a tangled web of secrets and lies began to emerge around the beach bar and the mysterious man who had left with Emily Dawson. What initially appeared to be a simple night of a tourist enjoying a drink, quickly revealed connections far darker than anyone had anticipated. The man's identity was uncovered through careful detective work. He was Jason Kanoa, the son of the beach bar's owner. But Jason's role in the community was not as innocent as it seemed. Reports surfaced, linking Jason to a small but dangerous crime ring operating quietly on the island. This group was involved in illegal drug trafficking, smuggling substances along the coast, and reportedly even human trafficking. The island, often seen as a tropical paradise, had shadows beneath its beauty, shadows that few outsiders knew about. Jason's name appeared repeatedly in police records, mostly in connection with minor offenses, but rumors suggested he was a key player in the local underworld. As authorities investigated further, they discovered that Emily might have stumbled upon something she wasn't supposed to see. Several witnesses came forward saying that she had asked questions in the days before she vanished. Emily, curious and observant, had been noticed taking pictures near restricted areas and talking to locals in a way that suggested she was gathering information. Some speculated she was unknowingly following Jason's activities or had overheard a conversation that put her in danger. The conflicting statements from people connected to the bar complicated the investigation. Some staff members claimed to have seen Emily and Jason together that night but insisted nothing unusual occurred. Others hinted at tension between the two, suggesting arguments or confrontations had taken place. A few locals, wary of the crime ring's reach, refused to speak at all, afraid of retaliation. This silence only deepened the mystery and frustration among investigators. The more the detectives dug, the more they realized how deeply entrenched the criminal activities were in the island's daily life. Jason's family, respected by many, maintained a public front of hospitality and community involvement. But behind closed doors, the picture was different. A network of favors, threats and cover-ups designed to keep their illicit operations hidden. Emily's presence, brief as it was, may have threatened to unravel that fragile balance. At the same time, investigators explored the possibility that Emily's disappearance was not random but targeted. The idea that she had been deliberately lured or followed from the bar took shape. Poisoning, kidnapping or worse, became concerns, though no physical evidence pointed directly to any one theory yet. Every lead seemed to twist back to Jason and his family, but proving involvement required evidence that was elusive and well concealed. This stage of the investigation also revealed surprising connections among people thought unrelated. Some employees at the bar had family ties to the crime ring, others were caught between loyalty and fear, trapped in a web where speaking out meant risking everything. The island's picturesque facade masked these tangled relationships, making it difficult for outsiders to understand the complexity. As days turned into a week, the authorities realized that Emily's disappearance was just one piece of a much larger, darker puzzle. The secrets she had uncovered and the people she had crossed held the key to understanding what happened that night. But with so many lies and threats in play, the truth was buried deep, waiting to be unearthed. Just when the investigation seemed to stall, an unexpected breakthrough arrived in the form of a tourist who had been vacationing nearby. This visitor, a quiet and observant person, came forward with information that would shift the entire direction of the case. They recalled seeing Emily Dawson on the night she vanished, but not just at the beach bar. According to the tourist, Emily had been involved in a tense confrontation with a man near a secluded trail that led away from the more crowded parts of the beach. The trail was narrow and overgrown, known mostly to locals and a few adventurous hikers. It wound through dense jungle and thick foliage, a place where few tourists ventured, especially after dark. The tourist had been passing by just as Emily and the man later identified as Jason Kanoa were arguing quietly but intensely. Their voices were low, but the tension between them was clear, sharp enough to be felt even from a distance. The tourist didn't intervene but made a mental note of the interaction, which they had initially dismissed as a private dispute. This new lead prompted authorities to refocus the search on the isolated trail and the surrounding jungle. The area was challenging to navigate, full of hidden routes, uneven ground and thick vegetation. Search teams, now equipped with flashlights and specialized gear, moved cautiously through the dense undergrowth. The terrain was unforgiving, but they were determined to uncover any signs of Emily's presence. As the search progressed, the trail revealed disturbing clues, broken branches, footprints and remnants of personal items that suggested someone had been forced or hurried through the area. The investigators pieced together a timeline that fit with the tourist's account, making it clear that Emily had not simply disappeared but had been taken or had fled into this remote section of the island. Locals familiar with the trail spoke of its reputation as a place to hide secrets. It was used by some for illicit activities precisely because it was so out of the way.
a place where people believed they wouldn't be disturbed. Stories circulated of past incidents where the trail had been linked to illegal exchanges or violence, though none had ever been officially solved. Now it seemed the trail had become the setting for something far more sinister. The discovery of Emily's argument with Jason at this location raised many questions. What had they been fighting about? Had she confronted him about his illegal activity? Was she trying to expose something she had uncovered? And if so, had that confrontation led to her disappearance? These questions haunted investigators as they pushed further into the jungle, following faint traces and desperate for answers. The community's mood shifted with the news. The realization that Emily might have been caught in this hidden part of the island brought a new wave of fear and urgency. Residents and tourists alike were reminded that beneath Maui's beautiful surface lay dangerous secrets and threats that could strike unexpected. As the search extended into this remote wilderness, every discovery felt charged with significance. The trail that had once been just a quiet path through the jungle had become the key to unraveling the mystery of Emily Dawson's disappearance. What would be found next was uncertain, but the hope was that this isolated place held the answers that had eluded everyone for days. The island's serene beauty now felt overshadowed by the dark truths waiting to be uncovered. 9 days after Emily Dawson vanished, the island's desperate search took a grim turn. A hiker, exploring the remote jungle trail recently identified by the tourist witness, stumbled upon a patch of disturbed earth hidden beneath thick foliage. The soil looked freshly turned, unlike the natural forest floor surrounding it. Instinctively, the hiker alerted authorities, who quickly secured the area and began a careful investigation. When police and forensic teams arrived, the gravity of the situation became clear. They began to excavate the shallow grave, working meticulously to avoid destroying any evidence. The canopy of trees above created a dim, almost eerie atmosphere, as if the jungle itself was holding its breath. The news spread swiftly across the island, stirring shock and sorrow among the community, who had hoped for Emily's safe return. As the excavation progressed, the remains found in the grave were identified through forensic analysis and personal effects discovered nearby. It was confirmed that they belonged to Emily Dawson. The revelation devastated her family and friends, turning hope into mourning. The paradise they had dreamed of for Emily's vacation was shattered by a harsh, tragic reality. The discovery raised immediate and troubling questions. How did Emily end up buried in such a remote location? Why had her disappearance remained a mystery for so long? And most importantly, who was responsible? Authorities knew that the answers lay hidden not only in the physical evidence, but in the tangled web of relationships and secrets surrounding the beach bar, the mysterious man, and the island's underworld. The shallow grave itself was carefully examined for clues. The positioning of the body suggested that Emily had been placed there deliberately, but the hurried nature of the burial indicated panic or urgency on the part of whoever had done it. It was clear that the perpetrator wanted to hide the truth but lacked the time or resources to do so properly. This sloppy attempt at concealment hinted at desperation and fear. Forensic experts also collected samples from the site, looking for traces of toxins, fibers, or anything that could tie a suspect to the crime. The soil composition, the depth of the grave, and the nearby vegetation were all analyzed for forensic evidence. Investigators hoped these details would help link the burial to a specific time and person, narrowing down their list of suspects. The discovery of Emily's.
With the investigation gaining momentum, authorities began focusing on untangling the web of deceit surrounding Jason Kanoa and the broader criminal network operating beneath Maui's sun-soaked surface. The initial evidence collected during searches and interrogations painted a picture of a man deeply enmeshed in illegal activities, but linking him definitively to Emily Dawson's murder proved more challenging. Jason remained silent, refusing to cooperate, and his lawyers moved quickly to protect his interests. However, cracks began to appear in his defense when a former associate, feeling the pressure of the ongoing investigation, agreed to become an informant. This individual, once part of the same crime circle, provided valuable testimony about Jason's behavior and the events leading up to Emily's disappearance. According to the informant, tensions had been rising between Jason and Emily after she started asking questions about his activities. Emily's curiosity had crossed into dangerous territory, threatening to expose secrets that some wanted to keep buried. The informant described a confrontation on the night Emily disappeared, where emotions ran high, and threats were exchanged. It was clear Emily had confronted Jason with what she knew or suspected. The situation escalated beyond words, leading to a violent encounter in the secluded trail area. The testimony suggested that Emily was attacked after the argument, and in a panic, Jason and possibly others attempted to cover up the crime by burying her in the shallow grave. Further evidence surfaced when digital forensics uncovered deleted messages on Jason's phones, some of which hinted at plans to handle a problem discreetly. Though heavily encrypted, investigators managed to retrieve fragments indicating a level of premeditation. These revelations shifted the investigation toward a deliberate and planned murder rather than a crime of passion or accident. Meanwhile, the broader criminal ring began to feel the heat. Arrests were made on charges related to drug trafficking and intimidation, destabilizing the network and creating tension within its ranks. Some members turned on each other, fearing the consequences of silence. This internal conflict helped law enforcement gather more information about the night Emily vanished and the people involved. The community watched as the investigation unfolded with a mix of hope and apprehension. Many residents felt relief that justice might finally be within reach, but also fear over the influence and reach of the criminal elements exposed by the case. The local government increased efforts to crack down on illegal activity, promising reforms and greater protection for vulnerable individuals. As the case moved toward trial, prosecutors prepared a strong argument based on the informant's testimony, forensic evidence, and digital communication. They painted a chilling picture of Emily Dawson's last hours, a brave young woman whose pursuit of truth ended in tragedy at the hands of those desperate to keep their secrets safe. The upcoming court proceedings promised to reveal more of the dark realities hidden beneath the island's paradise. For Emily's family and supporters, the trial represented the hope for closure and justice. For the island, it was a reckoning, an opportunity to confront the shadows that had long been ignored and to begin healing from the wounds left behind. Emily's story had started as a simple vacation but had spiraled into a powerful reminder of the fragile line between beauty and darkness. The final chapters were about to be written in a courtroom, where truth and accountability would fight to emerge from the depths of mystery and silence. The trial of Jason Kanoa became the most watched and talked about event on Maui in years. The courtroom was packed daily with locals, media, and visitors who followed every detail, desperate to see justice served for Emily Dawson. The atmosphere was tense, charged with the mix of grief, anger, and hope that had gripped the island since her disappearance. For the first time since Emily vanished, the story was being told fully in public, piece by piece, revealing layers of truth that had been hidden for too long. Prosecutors laid out a powerful case, built on the evidence painstakingly gathered over weeks. They described Emily's journey, the excitement of her arrival on the island, her last night at the beach bar, and the fateful encounter with Jason. The forensic findings, including the sedatives in her system and the blunt force trauma that caused her death, were presented clearly and without emotion, yet they struck deeply with those listening. Witnesses testified about the drug ring and Jason's involvement, painting a picture of a dangerous man who used fear and violence to protect his secrets. The turning point in the trial came when the informant took the stand. His testimony was detailed and raw, describing the escalating tension between Emily and Jason, the confrontation near the trail, and the panic that followed her attack. He spoke of the burial in the shallow grave, confirming suspicions that the crime was covered up hurriedly in desperation. The courtroom fell silent as the informant recounted the fear and guilt that had driven him to come forward. Jason's defense team worked hard to undermine the credibility of witnesses and challenge the forensic evidence. They painted Jason as a scapegoat, insisting there was no direct proof linking him to Emily's death and questioning the reliability of the informant's statements. But the weight of the evidence, combined with the consistency of the testimonies, made their efforts difficult. Throughout the trial, Emily's family attended every day, their presence a quiet reminder of the human cost behind the headlines. They found strength in the support of the community and the dedication of the investigators who had refused to let the case go cold. For them, the trial was not just about punishment, it was about honor, closure, and reclaiming the story of a young woman who had dreamed of paradise. After weeks of testimony and legal arguments, the jury reached a verdict. Jason Kanoa was found guilty of murder, as well as additional charges related to obstruction of justice and involvement in the criminal network. The judge sentenced him to a lengthy prison term, reflecting the severity of the crime and its impact on the community. The verdict brought a mixture of relief and sorrow. Justice had been served, but Emily's life had been brutally cut short. The case prompted a broader conversation on the island about safety, crime, and the importance of protecting visitors and residents alike. Local authorities pledged reforms, and community programs were launched to raise awareness and prevent similar tragedies. Though the trial closed one chapter, the story of Emily Dawson continued to resonate. Her brief time on Maui became a lasting symbol of courage and the fight against hidden darkness. The island, forever changed by her story, faced the future with a renewed commitment to uncovering truth and fostering safety. In the end, Emily's disappearance and the secrets it revealed transformed Maui's paradise into a place of reckoning, a reminder that beneath beauty can lie danger, and that justice, no matter how delayed, is always worth pursuing.